Do you ever look up at the night sky of your Minecraft world and wonder, could we ever reach the moon? Well, maybe. But let's find out. First, let's assume that the moon is roughly the same distance away from the overworld as the real life moon is from the Earth. That would put the Minecraft moon at roughly 384,400 kilometers away from the overworld. Now, one block is 1 meter by 1 meter, and so to travel 384,400 kilometers, we would need to travel up 384,400,000 blocks. That's quite a lot of blocks. But could Steve do it? Well, if Steve was to build up in a straight line, he would need 384,400,000 blocks. Makes sense, right? It's rather simple. Well, not quite. For context, to get that many blocks, Steve would need enough blocks to build a line that is around 2,000 blocks long and 100 blocks tall. Oh, and 2,000 blocks thick. So Steve would need to completely decimate the land, destroying forests, villages, and temples. Everything would have to go. All just to collect the materials that he would need for this task. This would likely take years to achieve, and the world would never recover from such devastation, just as you will never recover from the wrath of the world if you do not subscribe. But let's just put morals, ethics, and effort aside for one moment, and assume that Steve was somehow able to gather all the resources that he needed, and was also able to somehow store all of them. Let's just see what would happen. Steve would start building up, and things would look like they were working for a short while. He would get above the clouds, and he would be getting closer to the moon, building up higher and higher and higher, but then he would hit the build limit at Y level 320. Steve would not be able to build any further. All that destruction would have been for nothing. So destroying a large chunk of your world and building a straight pillar upwards, yeah, that's probably not a good idea if you actually want to get to the moon. But luckily, there are other options. For instance, instead of building up manually, we could create a machine. Using the industrialist powers of redstone materials and a little bit of slime, we can create a simple flying machine. So let's get in, activate it, and see what happens. Again, we get above the clouds, and we go higher and higher and higher, but no blocks can pass Y level 320, so that's where the flying machine stops. Now you could jump on the slime, and that might boost you up a little bit, but still it's not enough. And so once again, the plan has failed. We need to do something else. But luckily, there's an item that might just be perfect for this moon mission. The Elytra. This item allows one to glide, or, with the use of rockets, fly. So let's grab some rockets, equip the Elytra, and take aim for the moon. Through the use of rocket spamming, it's possible to maximize the time being boosted by the rockets, thus speeding up the ascent. In a mere few seconds we can reach the clouds, and then just a few seconds after that, we can surpass the build limit. And because we are no longer using blocks, we can keep going. Just keep spamming the rockets as much as possible. We can reach 1,000 blocks. No. 2,000 blocks. No. 3,000 blocks. No. 5,000. No. 7,000. No. 10,000. No. We can keep going all the way to around 13,500 blocks into the atmosphere. That's higher than Mount Everest, and even the altitude of most commercial airlines in real life. But it's roughly at that point that the Elytra runs out of durability, and we start to fall. But wait, that was just one unenchanted Elytra starting from the ground floor, using rockets very wastefully. We can make things so much better. First, we could add Unbreaking 3 to the Elytra. That should in theory maintain the Elytra's durability for much longer. We could also start out by flying from the top of that build limit tower, thus giving a slight initial boost to our height. And we could also use Flight Duration 3 rockets, not just for greater inventory efficiency, but also for easier travelling, due to not needing to spam rockets consistently in order to be most efficient. And so with all those adjustments completed, we're ready. And so in 3, 2, 1, let's go! Quickly we make it to 1,000 blocks, then 2,000 blocks, then 5,000 blocks, then 10,000 blocks. We quickly surpassed the previous 13,500 blocks, but that was just the beginning, for we are going to go so much further now. We can reach 20,000 blocks, then 25,000 blocks, then 30,000, then 35,000, and even 40,000 blocks. But around 43,000-ish blocks, the elytra breaks, and we can go no further. Now, just for some context, it's at this altitude the high altitude balloons exist. The ones that will predict weather. That's how high we can reach. But still, we can increase this. Remember, this was just one elytra, and we have 36 inventory slots, plus the offhand, plus the chestplate, or elytra slot. So in theory, we could fill our inventories with Unbreaking 3 elytras and get a total of 38 elytras and try again. But wait, we need the fuel, or in this case, the rockets, to push us upwards. And I found that on that last trip, I needed around 8 stacks of Flight Duration 3 rockets in order to fully wear down the elytra with Unbreaking 3. So let's just assume that we'll need 8 stacks of rockets for each elytra. Well, that would limit us to only 4 and a bit elytras if we filled all the other slots with Flight Duration 3 rockets. We can't have part of an elytra, so let's just round down to 4 elytras. Thus, the optimum inventory layout would look something like this: 3 elytras in the inventory, 1 equipped, and everything else being Flight Duration 3 rockets. But wait, we can make it better. We could use only 1 elytra and save on the inventory space. But how could we do that? Wouldn't that 1 elytra break rather quickly? Well, not necessarily. There's a solution to that being the Mending Enchantment. This enchantment allows one to heal the durability of items through the use of experience orbs. And luckily there's an item that allows us to carry experience orbs, the Bottles of Enchanting. And so since we only need approximately 32 Bottles of Enchanting to fully heal an elytra's durability, accounting for some loss in poorly thrown potions, we could optimize the layout to be like this. This would allow the equivalent of about 5 and a bit elytras, with every other slot being filled with Flight Duration 3 rockets. This should be the best layout. And so let's climb back up the tower and fly once more. Quickly, once again we can make it past 1,000 blocks, then 2,000, then 10,000, and we can break past the first elytra flight of 13,500. But we can keep going. We can make it past 20,000, and 30,000, and 43,000, which was the previous record. But we can keep going, as we can make it past 50,000, then 60,000, then 70,000, then 80,000, then 90,000, and then 100,000 blocks. And thus it's at that point that we enter space. But we can keep going. We can make it past 110,000, then 120, then 130, 140, 150,000, and even into 160,000 blocks. This is the point of low Earth orbit, where satellites start to appear. But we can go even further, as we can reach approximately 200,000 blocks before the rockets run out, and we can go no further. That is a huge distance to travel, and it's something that most players would never do. But still, it's not nearly enough to reach the moon. In fact, even with this fully optimized setup, we only reach around 0.05% of the way to the moon. That's not great, is it? And so it's rather clear. This elytra strategy will not suffice alone. But maybe that's where we're thinking about this all wrong. Maybe we're being too reliant on the ability of ourselves to meet this goal. Perhaps we need to turn our attention back to technology. But unlike before, we can't be using the technology to just push the player upwards. We need some sort of knockback. Something so strong that it would exert a force onto the player that would send them flying into the sky, higher than they've ever been. And so there's a few possibilities to do that. But by far the best use of redstone to do that is a TNT cannon. Something simple like this could launch a player up to 150 blocks into the air, add another layer of dispensers, and we can easily reach 400 blocks into the sky. Build this cannon at build height, and boom! We can rather easily reach Y level 700, which is a very nice boost to start off with. But still, that's nothing in comparison to the distance we need to travel. But luckily, this is just the beginning. Using even more complex redstone, far more powerful TNT launchers can be achieved. Something like this could even be created. And the full credits for this creation are in the description below. But an ultimate TNT launcher such as this one can send a player flying up to 34,000 blocks into the air. That's a lot. But sadly, that's the max TNT setup that I'm aware of. So even that massive boost, along with that previous elytra technique, well, it's still not going to cut it for our ambition of the moon. But that's okay. maybe the industrial redstone isn't the way forward. Perhaps magic could be a better alternative. Allow me to explain. In Minecraft 1.21, a new mob known as the Breeze was added to the game. Now when you kill the Breeze, you get an item known as the Breeze Rod. Then if you break down the Breeze Rod, you can create wind charges. A fun item that you can throw around that deals a lot of knockback. Cool, right? Except it gets better, as you can transfer those knockback abilities into a potion. Using the Breeze Rod on some awkward potions, one can create the Potion of Wind Charging. This potion effect will cause any mob to give off that wind charge knockback effect if they die, while the potion is still active, and this is somewhat stackable. So if made into a splash potion and thrown into an area of easily killable mobs, such as chickens, like this, all the chickens will be affected. And then if we use a splash instant harming potion, we can activate a lot of wind charging power all at once, and thus we can go very high into the sky, very quickly. But that's just the beginning. If you set up a chicken launch pad, such as the one that you see here, at build height, where there's a 5x5 area for the chickens to be funneled towards from a chicken spawner, and then we throw those potions again, well if done correctly, we can go up a few thousand blocks in a mere few seconds, assuming that we were at the point of entity cramming. But wait, we can improve this. Removing the law of entity cramming, we can fit so many more chickens into that area, and thus, we can get a lot more wind charging power, and thus, we might be able to go much higher into the sky. So, let's test it. And so I changed my settings to fully optimize my computer so that it could better handle all these entities. That meant a render distance of 2, no shaders, no unneeded mobs, nothing that could hurt the performance of this launch. And so I kept on spawning as many chickens as possible until I reached an entire 0 frames per second. I was ready. And so it was at that point that I activated the potions. Now there was a little lag, but after a short moment, this happened. I reached over 300,000 blocks into the sky, and so that, combined with the Elytra flight, could allow us to reach a potential 500,000 blocks. That's above even the International Space Station, and that's quite a far distance away from the surface. But still, despite all those efforts, we only ever reached 0.13% of the way to the moon. And at this point, I don't think there's any way that I could improve this, not that I'm aware of. And so to answer the question, can Steve go to the moon? No, Steve can't do that. But maybe that's intentional, because maybe as mere players, we were never meant to reach the moon, or the stars. Not yet anyways. Space exploration is likely deeply fascinating, but is also more than likely beyond our comprehension at this time. Perhaps before we can explore the cosmos, and fully appreciate that, we need to enter the sky dimension, a realm of clouds that might be filled with more mystery and wonder than that of the mostly empty void of space. And so to learn what a sky dimension might look like within Minecraft, that keeps with a Mojang style, consider watching this video.